Good evening, everybody. I'm Andy Galler, and tonight I'm going to be the substitute chair of the Conservation Board. And the first thing on our agenda is an application for 2, 4, and 6 Hudson River Lane from Race. So can we have somebody from Race present to us, please? Welcome.
Chris, if you unmute yourself, you can speak.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Chris Eggers from Race Coastal Engineering. Azure D was also calling in. I don't know if, did she get through?
Who was it?
Azure D Schleicher from Race.
Yes, I'm going to let her in right now. There you go.
Okay, great. So she's going to take the lead on this and go through it.
There you go. She's all ready.
Okay, great. Great.
Can you guys see me, hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, technical difficulties on my end.
No worries.
Okay, so we'll jump right in. I don't know if you want me to show a screen that has the site plans or photos, or you all have that in your packet.
I think everybody has it. What is everybody comfortable with?
Maybe the audience wants to see it at home.
Let's let her do a screen share and see it on the screen.
Sure. All right. There we go. Okay. So 2, 4, and 6 Hudson River Lane, 3 contiguous properties owned by the same applicant. We have 380 feet of shoreline structure, varies in composition from existing dry stacked stone seawall, concrete seawall. There's a couple sets of stone steps that lead down to the water and a concrete boat ramp. And all of the shoreline structures are in various states of deterioration and need of repair. So starting from the north end, this northern section is a dry stack stone wall. It's about 250 linear feet. And most of that is proposed to be repaired in place with chinking, which is filling of the voids between the stones, and drainage improvements on the land side, which consist of filter fabric and stone that will act as a filter for any water that would otherwise seep through the dry stacked stones and pull sediment out with it as the water seeps through. So the drainage improvements will help keep the soil retained behind the wall and eliminate the sinkholes that we're finding developing behind the wall there. The next section of wall, let me just scroll down to, so that's this segment here. The next, the area of and the existing ramp will be enlarged horizontally across the property, not vertically or not into the water, but will become a set of stairs for better water access. Everything is essentially within the same footprint of the existing structure, so there's no real waterward encroachment of any of the repairs that we're doing. But this section here will become a set of stairs, and then we have an existing, where right now there's an existing concrete wall as well, that will be repaired, replaced essentially in kind. For a few feet, we're proposing a gangway and floating dock in this area here. There will be a new concrete landing just at and landward of the existing seawall, in which an aluminum gangway and seasonal floating dock would be accessed. As we move further to the south, we have an area of concrete seawall that is also in disrepair, and sinkholes behind it, erosion at the base of it. It's losing its footing, and there's some stone riprap out in front. So this area here is going to be patched, repaired, in place. And then as we move further south, there's an existing section of concrete wall that will be replaced with stone wall. And then we get to the last segment, which is also concrete and will be patched and repaired in place. So again, all of this is a repair of an existing or various existing structures, essentially within their footprint. And the only new element really is the proposed gangway and floating dock. And I have some pictures just to show kind of what the existing condition looks like. Can you all see that? Photo of the existing seawall?
We're still seeing the plan.
Okay, let me just make sure. So, new share.
Yep, we see it now.
See that? Okay. So this is at the northern end, the existing dry stack stone wall, and you can see that there's large gaps between the existing stones, which is again allowing material to be pulled out from behind the wall and cause the sinkholes on the land behind. So again, we're going to be restacking those stones, filling in the voids between large stones with smaller stones, and packing it in tight, and have the drainage improvements on the land side. Let's see. So here's a photo of, again, just some of the voids are as deep as 3 feet when you stick a ruler in there. So we want to restack and firm that up.
So most likely you're not going to move any of the stones. You're going to fill.
Some of them, and if you, let's make sure, I guess every time I change the page, I need to refresh here. Let's see. So you could see here, the wall's actually leaning towards the water. So this area would be one that would actually be partially dismantled and restacked, because it's a little bit precarious in that condition.
Does the concrete wall run along the entire backside of the stone masonry?
We did not do exploratory digs behind the entire thing, but I do not believe it does. That is the return wall for the boat ramp area. So on either side of the boat ramp, there's 2 wing walls, and that's one of them. But I believe it stops just inside, a few feet inside of the rocks there.
Okay, I think I was just trying to touch on Andy's point. I think our biggest concern with something like that would be when you do disassemble it, making sure that there's erosion control in place, and some sort of measure in place to, isolate the work area. And if that wall did continue all the way down, then that may alleviate some of the board's concerns, but it doesn't sound like it does. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Right, and
historically, my memory of the property, particularly the northern section, is it does not extend. And the photo we're looking at now is pretty extreme low tide.
yes, yes. And so all of the wall is accessible during a low tide. So that is primarily when most of the work will be done, so that we're minimizing sedimentation and erosion into the river. And the contractor will be required to install sedimentation and erosion control structures, including a turbidity curtain out in the water. And that's a requirement of DEC, of the DEC permit.
And the wall itself, is it going to be dry, or are we going to be using cement or hydraulic cement?
So that section of wall will be dry, but as we move to the south, and so here's a section of the existing concrete wall, which will be replaced with concrete wall. So it will be patched, and formwork, it'll be removed down to sound material, new rebar, formwork, and poured in place.
Okay. And I'm just going to the dock. I'm assuming the gangway is not permanently fixed. It's going to extend out and hit the dock that is, what is it, 8 by 20 and float on that?
Correct. So on the land side, there will be a concrete foundation on which the gangway will be fixed on a hinge. And so it will move up and down. The floating dock component will float with the tides, and the gangway will articulate with that float, and it will be removed seasonally, the dock and the gangway, so they won't be in during the wintertime.
And the float is structurally is going to be attached to the gangway, or is there going to be subsurface mushroom anchors or something like that to hold it in place?
The floating dock will be anchored in place with mushroom anchors and chains, and the gangway will have rollers at the end. So again, as the floating dock rises and moves with the tides, the gangway will articulate with that and roll freely on top of the floating dock.
Okay, that makes sense. And what do you think you're going to need? 2 mushroom anchors or a single one?
We actually have 4, so we'd have chain at and an anchor at each corner of the float.
Okay. You have questions or comments from the board?
Can I just also step in here and just ask you to reiterate where you guys are with your state and federal permitting? Where I believe you have valid DEC permits at this point.
We do have a valid DEC permit, and we have a Department of State coastal consistency review concurrence. The Army Corps permit is still pending, but we expect it any day now. They had asked for some additional information a little while back, which we provided, but I think, again, everyone's working from home and things are just a little bit more slow. But as far as we're aware, all the technical issues or concerns that anyone has brought up from the Army Corps or any other agency have been addressed.
Okay. Max, where do you think we should go from here?
I think at this point, it'd probably be appropriate for the board to vote on a conditional permit that once the Army Corps responds back to the applicant, that they transmit a completed packet with that document, and then we can issue a wetlands and watercourses permit at that time. But I think voting on it tonight would be appropriate if nobody has any more concerns with changes to the plan or how the site will be protected. or anything like that.
So before I ask for a motion, does anybody on the board have any comments or concerns? Okay, it sounds like a good plan, and I like the fact that we're using mushroom anchors instead of stone blocks. So with that said, could I have a motion to issue a conditional permit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Excellent.
so Max will keep in touch with you, and as soon as you have your Army Corps permit, we should get that paperwork.
Absolutely. We'll forward it. We'll be in touch with Max. We appreciate your time and your vote tonight.
Thank you. Good luck with
And-
the
Yeah, sure. Kudos on your screen sharing prowess. I've been on a number of other unrelated Zoom board meetings where the process of watching the presenter try and do a screen share was extraordinarily painful.
Well, thank you, and I apologize because it was a little bit painful for me. I'm used to being in my office with my dual monitors and my mouse, and I'm at home tonight, so I don't have that full setup to be able to do it as quickly as I otherwise would. But
Good
again,
job, and
appreciate
it
your
was
patience.
very helpful. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Well, I guess we can sign off then.
Yes, you can. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Bye.
Same. I'm gathering that Beatty and Watson is not going to present on Riverview Industries tonight.
They are not on.
Okay. So, I mean, there's really nothing else on the agenda unless we have anything on stormwater from Max or any update on am I saying it right? Oxyoak?
Yeah, Jose Lahana.
Yes.
I can briefly touch on that. I don't have too much on the stormwater side. Mike may have some more on that, but Mark and I went back and forth with Jason Snyder. He's representing Jose at this point. So, Jason's aware of all the board's concerns through the emails that were sent back and forth like last week and this week. So I sent Jason over all the violation notices that were associated with Jose's property and, basically all of your comments. So he's working on putting together a proposal for Jose so he can move forward through our court system. I believe that Greg has not reached out to him yet to update him on where the court is and stands in relation to those violations. So they have enough information to move forward before they can even come before the board again to talk about completing the final portion of his projects regarding the garage. So the way that Mark had left it off was basically bringing the property as close to, as close to where we had agreed for him to stop working and finish up his restoration plantings before anything else can proceed in front of the board itself. So I don't know what the timeline is on that. I know Jason is putting together that proposal for Jose. So whether or not Jose accepts that proposal to move forward with rectifying some of these issues is going to be up to him outside of being mandated to go to the court once that process begins. So if it hasn't already. So Greg will probably have more updates on that as well. I believe the new building inspector or the assistant building inspector is taking the lead on that through the court. So that's the short update.
So those are building department violations. They're not violations to our permitting process.
They're both. They're yeah. There's the violation regarding our purview has to do with deviating from the approved site plans that we had given him permission to complete, and then also filling in a regulated area And then the other violations have to do with commercial vehicle use on the property, installing lighting and generators without permitting. And I believe there's one or two more that are also in front of them. So either way, without all of those getting rectified, he's not going to be able to get building permits for the garage itself, so that he wants to build at this point.
Okay, so in theory, then Jason from Beatty and Watson is going to be the next engineer to deal with what I'll call
Yeah.
septic, wetland, etc. Okay.
Yeah, and he's going to try to address all of the violations that are in front of that are associated with the property. So he's not solely going to be working on Chapter 93 stuff. It's going to be all of the things that I listed.
Okay, I think that's
So
good.
he probably will be the one that will go to court and represent him there, I would assume.
Okay. Do we have any other updates or news that we should talk about?
That's it for me.
Mike, do you have anything for us?
No, I had problems hearing Max and yourself before. No, just so I couldn't actually hear what he had to say about Jose's, but I do like the fact, I think that I read there that, we're making sure he follows up with the violations first. I just don't want us to get bogged down again, battling with him when we have those issues going forward. First, I think, we've been very clear up front about what needed to be done, and he continued to move forward against what we were looking for. So I think short of getting those taken care of first, I'm not really positive of moving forward his project. I don't want us to have a problem going there maybe, and then he starts an argument or whatever with those issues going on. He's just not, in my opinion, cooperating. He bought a piece of property that he thinks is large enough to handle everything he wants. Unfortunately, that's not the way things work. And I just don't think he's really getting at. So I think some other measures might have to happen beyond us, but we'll see what happens. Regardless of that, I think on stormwater, with all of us being kind of, bogged down with this, we're not getting together and everything, that we make sure that we are driving through the town, that we are looking at potential illegal dumpings or any issues that someone could take advantage of, since we're not as bad normal yet at this point. That's all I've got so far.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else they'd like to talk about tonight?
Can I just ask one question on Oxyoak? I know I haven't been around for a long time, but I almost feel like I stepped out of the movie theater in the middle of one of those, Marvel Comics movies, and I stepped back in and I almost didn't miss anything. Like it's all right in the heat of the action still. Do we still have an escrow on that project? Is there any escrow money left? Does that need to be replenished? I just can't remember.
I think we do have money left in that account. It's probably not a lot, so I'd have to check with the supervisor's office. But he's kept his permits valid every year, so he pays for renewals every year. So that's tends to make me think that there is money still there.
And
Just
MJ,
wondering if we need to bolster the amount if we continue to deal with non-compliance.
Yeah, well, the way that Beatty and Watson is going to handle offering their services is that he's going to have to pay them a retainer up front. Otherwise, they're not going to move forward with completing any tasks. So unless he agrees to that, we're kind of in a holding pattern. I mean, unless he keeps on doing more and more, taking more and more action that would be considered violation by our board or the building department, he's not going to be able to construct the garage at all. I mean, until any of those violations are rectified, any and all. So, that's kind of our one piece that we're holding at this point.
And
But it seems like sorry, go ahead, Andy.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it seems like he wants to be compliant and figure out a way forward so he can get what he wants. That being said, Mark and the rest of the board and I were very clear that, this is a huge, huge second chance and he needs to make it right. Because he basically, just disregarded what he agreed to do.
Second chance,
So.
third chance, fourth chance.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of chances.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was
I guess
the last meeting we had discussed also that we thought that whoever is the engineer should prepare a current site condition, so we have it for the records, compare it to what should have been done and ultimately, hopefully, what will be done correctly.
Right. And then we also wanted to know how much he filled in there. I mean, he's got to know how many trucks he dumped in there.
Yeah,
And I think it's
Jason quantified that in rough numbers, but that's like you and Andy said, like that current conditions versus pre-existing conditions plan is going to be developed, and then Jason's also going to go out there and dig test holes in the area he filled to get depths and dimensions. The rough number right now that Jose basically stated was it was about 150 cubic yards of material brought in, and what condition that material is in is something also Jason's going to try to quantify. So that's from emails back and forth between Mark, him, and I. And I can forward those on to the board too if you guys want to see them.
Now that sounds like a very good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to also say that at some point we might need to have that septic system scoped out or something, some borescope down to see if there's any damage with all those trucks going over it. Well, one, certainly compression of the soil, which I know several times when we've had these presentations, that's obviously a poor factor for how they work, because you have to have non-compressed soil above them. And then also if you drove a bunch of dump trucks over it, maybe the pipes got disconnected and they're not really connected anymore. So I think that's something that we have to investigate.
We can convey that to Jason.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward and it's not expensive to have a video done. I did it on my septic one time, so. And I found a bunch of tree roots. And I had to get somebody with a grinder to grind them out. But it works good. I have one other question, Mike, more for you. Like, with all the power outages going on, is the town considering any kind of action or request to the power companies to maybe start trimming some of these dead trees that are like laying on top of the lines constantly all the time? And I mean, there's clearly spots that need to be trimmed before a storm, and those are sometimes the spots that are getting destroyed. I mean, Gallows Hill is a good case in point. Every storm, the top of the hill is always out of commission for 2 or 3 days because the lines, are compressed by trees falling down. So there's lots of dead trees or dying trees that could be removed proactively. I'm just wondering if the town has thought about that in any way, that, maybe there's some approach we could do to Central Hudson.
They have, obviously they do go around. They have a program of going around and doing cuttings. Not too long ago, they did the entire South Mountain Pass. That was virtually a nightmare because the road is so narrow that it constantly was almost on the phone daily with neighbors having serious problems of getting through. But in fact, that is the goal. I mean, when they go there, they are trying to eliminate the ability, so that roads like that, or, that have a lot of trees hanging over, are in fact taken care of. I read comments recently from the supervisor from Putnam Valley that I probably had worse problems than us, even for trees. And, people want the power lines to go underground. I've been always told that that's a very expensive proposition for our area because of the rock and so forth.
Yeah.
But and the fact that we're not a city, so therefore the cost per, clear up, the roads when you have our houses not mostly that close together is not cost effective. That's what I've been told in the past. And then, cutting down all of those trees, you're going to go onto a lot of private property, and people are really hostile towards it. They want the power on, but they're not open, that I've seen a lot of times, to going onto their property and cutting down their trees. You're right that they can cut, and they do cut. They have a program of cutting any branches that are within so many feet of the power line, but it's not that far. I mean, it's, not going into the property. And what happens a lot with these very windy storms is it takes down large sections or the whole tree. And obviously when that falls, it's hitting line. So you'd have to probably, in my opinion, I'm not a tree expert, but you'd have to probably cut back a decent distance to really provide for real reliability against these kind of storms. I just don't see it happening that easily, but I think they are pretty aggressive. And like I said, at times, it causes problems with people, but this is the reasons why they are as aggressive as they are. So, obviously with Gallows Hill, you always have to remember we only own up to Aqueduct. After that, it's all Con Edison, who they hire. So,
Well, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, but there's like some trees like that are dead on people's properties, and they're clearly going to fall. It's just a matter of when. And okay, so they're on private property, but maybe some type of notice to the owner that like this tree is going to fall and hit the power line, and you're going to be liable for some type of cost if it takes down the power line. I mean, it just seems like they're just not avoiding the maintenance on their own property. Like there's 4 or 5 I know of just in this area that have been dead for years, and every time there's a storm, big branches fall off. But sooner or later, that tree's going to come down and take out the whole line. Just a matter of time when.
Yeah, I haven't.
There's
I could
no easy
actually
answer.
talk to Carl if that would have to be an assessment that was done by Highway, and then you'd have to follow up with each neighbor. I haven't heard of a program like that personally. I'm not saying it's certainly sound, but I don't know how much would be involved in it. And then there's I don't believe there's any actual legal enforcement to forcing someone to take down a tree that isn't in an immediate threat. I know what you're saying, but I don't know if there's anything that way. I'd have to look into it. I haven't heard of a town doing that, so I'd have to look into it. I don't have any knowledge of any town doing that.
We have anything else we need to go over tonight? I'm going to take that as a no. So could I have a motion to end the meeting?
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Everybody have a great evening and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
too.
Good night.
You too.
Nice
Take
to
care.
see
See you guys.
all.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.